Ted Arthur, welcome. First of all, I emailed you this, so this is no surprise. I turned on the tribute to Sondheim, and I'm watching, and I'm thinking, oh, Stephen Schwartz is playing very nicely on the Follies Overture, and then all of a sudden they're going to do the overture to Merrily We Roll Along, and who do I see? Guess, it was you. So tell us, first of all, how did you wind up doing the Sondheim tribute?
So it was definitely a large music team. Mary Mitchell Campbell, who's you may know, who is a music director in town. She's music director currently of Mean Girls. She, I believe, came up with this idea with some colleagues to, one, celebrate Stephen Sondheim's birthday, but also to raise awareness for her organization, A-Step, Artists Striving to End Poverty, which Mary Mitchell is the founder for. And so it kind of came together. She approached me along with a bunch of other people on our music team to try and pull this off. And I think we got the email, or she reached out 2 weeks before this thing aired. So it was all hands on deck for 2 weeks, and really intense. And one of the projects that it was all done by, very compartmentalized. Each actor was reached out to separately and figured out how to craft the song. And the song choice came through Mary Mitchell talking with director, or talking with the actor on what song would be appropriate for them. And the concept to start this whole thing off was to do it like a real show where the orchestra plays an overture. And so I was tasked with coming up with a way to make this happen. And
you were tasked with making that. Nobody said, this is how you do it. You actually had to figure this out.
Yeah, I talked to Mary Mitchell about this slightly, and the sad thing about it right now is currently our technology makes it very difficult to do anything live via Zoom. There was, if you watched the concert, there was in Ladies Who Lunch, they had a Zoom screen, and that was on Zoom, but it was very staged, and most of the performance was done by sending piano tracks to Meryl and everybody and having them send it back. And so it all came in through the editing. And so what we did for the overture was I created basically a template in Logic, which, if you're familiar, it's like GarageBand. Logic, the first step was to create a tempo map. So I took the version that we were using, the sheet music we had, which was for the 2012 Encores edition, and literally just listened to the tempo and all the retards and where it stopped, and the fermatas, and just literally had a click going at the tempo of the entire piece. So if it slowed down, the click would slow down. And so we had a template of what we could do. Then I played the piano vocal along with the click. And so then we had kind of a template for people to listen to. And then I thought it would be helpful because, you're listening to this, you're listening to the music, you're listening to this piano vocal, and it just kind of slows down randomly if you're not familiar with the piece. So I decided to record a conductor camera feed of the number. And so we sent out to the instrumentalists the video, the click track, and the piano vocal. So they could literally watch and play.
I have a question for you, Ted.
Yeah.
So you as a conductor, are there any things in the performance that we finally saw that you would have adjusted if you had been able to make adjustments after the fact? Basically, you were locked into tempos, you were locked into dynamics to a certain degree because you had figured it out ahead of time. If you were working with a live orchestra, there may have been things where you would go, and Martin Peach could probably talk to this as well. There probably would have been things where you would have adjusted or said, well, maybe this is a little faster than I would have wanted it? Maybe. Were there any things that you would have adjusted in looking at it now?
Sure. I mean, I think there probably are. I mean, I think the goal obviously is to make a piece sound as much off click when it has to be on click. So, you know, if you're doing it very free and you're doing it live, you can take liberties with time, and you can, you know, hold a chord longer than you want in the moment if it feels right. Well, here we have to be very precise without it sounding precise, I guess. And so there were a couple moments where, you know, I wish the how we mapped how fast it would go or how slow it would go, we could probably have mapped it out a little more organically, so it felt a little more like it wasn't on a click. And that was really brought to our attention when we started getting the videos back. So the video editor, or the sound mixer got all of the audio and lined everything up. And it was really amazing because everyone's playing in their living room, or, you know, by themselves, and you're getting these videos back and audio back, and it just sounds so weird just hearing the part isolated by itself. But it you know, it's kind of like magic when you lined everything up, all the players up, you know, it produced what you heard.
Ted,
and yes,
to my ear, it sounded pretty tight. I'm sure there must have been split-second differences in some of the notes in the different instruments. Did you hear that, or were you like pretty satisfied?
Yeah, if you could hear the first pass that we got from the mixer, it was okay. There was a lot. I mean, I guess the best way I can put it is if you were listening to it on your, you know, iPhone and just listening to it, you would kind of wonder what's going on with the orchestra, because everything wasn't exactly lined up. You know, anytime there was a hit, it was kind of a splat, and that's just players playing by themselves. Intonation was a little weird. You know, when you're playing together, you can kind of hone in on intonation. So we went through with a fine-tooth comb and said, okay, here, measure 36. The second trumpet's a little late. We need to. And so with the magic of mixing, the mixer was able to go in and tighten it up. So, you know, yes, Bob, I think it was very tight. You know, it definitely came through a number of revisions to get to that point.
So what was it like recording your videotaping yourself recording? You must have had, you were listening to it, or how were you doing that?
Yeah, so I think again with the magic of editing, you know, in the world that we are in right now, it's very difficult to do things live. So everything has to be packaged and then sent to somebody, and then they send it back, and then you combine it. So what I did was, once I made this piano vocal recording, I can't remember. I think I literally played it out of my laptop and then conducted, and just listened to it and conducted, you know, what I heard. Then I went back in and removed that audio and replaced it with the actual piano vocal, so that it was very clean. You could send that out. But you know, I had not heard a single player play this yet, so I'm just kind of anticipating them in a way.
Have you ever been in a situation since COVID started where you accompanied a singer virtually on just a solo piece?
Live, you mean, on something like Zoom?
So here's the difference. A lot of us are trying to figure out how to do live virtual presentations of musicals, and it's pretty discouraging. It's pretty hard. Being able to have the luxury of recording it all, creating a track, sending the track to the various players and have them play, and then have an engineer who has the skill to be able to mix it, is an advantage that we don't all have. So we're looking for ways to try to figure out how to do this on our own. I mean, this is definitely one of these, do not try this at home.
Yeah, I think it definitely, I was just on a phone call today about another benefit that's that someone wants to do. And on that call was the director, the two video editors, music director, casting, so there's definitely, because of where we are, I think there are more people that need to be involved in this. I think you can do a reading of sorts. I've never done this, right when this happened, someone reached out to me and we had been working on a reading, and she said, do you think that we could do a Zoom reading of the show, where the player, where you could play the piano and then they could sing. And, we talked about that a little, and we finally decided that it wasn't the right option because, as I was saying earlier, it's very difficult, I think, with the time difference in Zoom, and then having to be able to listen to the nuance through your headphones to do it live.
And I want to underscore that. What we didn't talk about was lag time. So basically, one of the things we're dealing with virtually is lag time. And the lag time actually varies depending on the connection that the other person has, I think. I don't think it's an absolute consistent lag time. So there is that we're always trying to figure out a way to get around, even in non-musical readings. We had some discussion with directors 2 weeks ago about the extra importance of cue pickup when you're doing a virtual reading, because there is going to be a little bit of lag time. So you have to be really quick on your cues.
Yeah, and I thought of a way that you could get around that. I haven't done it, but it seems like what you could do is a variation of what we did with the Sondheim concert, where let's say you're doing a reading and you have, 16 songs. If you were to record yourself playing, doing the accompaniment tracks and then sending them to the person, to whoever, and let's say you get up to a song, if the person could play the accompaniment track and then sing along with that track, so they're in the same room, there's no lag time and you'd be able to hear it. I think that's getting around it. You have to have the accompaniment and the singer physically in the same room for it to work online. Yes, there's going to be lag time to start the song or whatever, but at least you could probably do it so the accompaniment and the singer are together.
I have a sort of an implied question from one of the people that's listening. For the orchestra, for Merrily, for you, for what you did, the editor was sent the audio tracks or the audio and video tracks, because they didn't separate the audio and the video, did they? They mixed the whole thing together and kept it in sync with the video that was being shot, right?
Yeah, so it was a two-step process. So each player, and these are professional players and they have setups at home, were able to send back a video of them playing and a separate audio track, a separate WAV file. And so all those individual audio files were given to the mixer. The mixer came up with a finished track of everything together. And then they sent that finished track to the video editor, and the video editor had to first line up all the videos so they were all synced correctly. And then he could just drop in the finished audio. But you have to line it up by listening.
So this is not easy.
It's not easy. It's very many steps. And honestly, what was really took the most time was actually getting the shots and making sure they were lined up. If you go back and look at that video, I think you said this, Bob, earlier, if there's something to go back visually, the way that the guy edited it, things would get off. So if you go back and look at the video, there's at least 6 spots where players are playing when they shouldn't be, or the piano's playing a high part in the right hand and it's like way low. So visually it's off. So that's the real difficult part of doing this when you have so many so many videos.
Okay, I have another question for you from the attendees. Did everybody slate their part? Was there a slate or a clapboard?
No, and that's what we should have done as well. I think that was thought up midway through this process. And so I talked to the mixer about how we should do this, and decided that the final chord of the whole piece, everyone hits together. And so I said, just line it up at the back end first, and then it should time out. And so that final chord acted as a slate.
Did you work with any of the singers at all, or your thing was the overture, or did you work with Mary at all with when she was working with singers?
Yes, I played for Chip and Judy Kuhn, their numbers. And again, that was a very similar situation where it was, okay, here's this song, can you record it? And recorded that, sent that to Judy, and Judy would come back and say, in this spot, I'd love to slow down a little bit more. Could we take out this little thing in the right hand right before I sing? It's a little distracting. So I would do that and then sent that back to her. And then she would record herself singing along to the track with headphones. So all the video you'd get was her singing. You'd hear no piano in that video. And then the actual piano part was layered on top of that. So we have a lot of videos from this concert of just a cappella singing.
Okay. I'm going to ask everybody in the room to use the hand raise function, so that if you want to say something or you want to make a comment, I don't have to speak for you. You can speak for yourself. Just raise your hand so I know that you want to say something. Did somebody raise a hand yet? No. Okay, so I'm going to ask for Emelina. Emelina wants to know if you were aware of any of the plugins for Zoom that manage audio. Are there any plugins that would make the audio better or easier to deal with, or?
I am not familiar enough with that. I've not heard of anything. We had a bunch of people working on this, on the Sondheim project, and everyone came to the conclusion that this was the cleanest way to do it. I mean, I think maybe even more instantaneous would be the phone. And if you imagine accompanying somebody on the phone, it's just really difficult. And like I said, with the Ladies Who Lunch, they did do some of it on Zoom. But from what I wasn't in charge of that, but from what I heard, it was a nightmare because of and they had to do a lot of editing. All of the trick with this is in the editing, I think.
I'm going to be in the minority. I know people who are rapturous about the Ladies Who Lunch. I found it a little messy.
Yeah.
It wasn't really clean. I mean, it was great because they had three amazing people selling it. But from a musical point of view, it wasn't. I was really impressed with the Merrily Overture. I thought that was so tight, amazingly so. It wasn't. Ladies Who Lunch was not tight. I do have a hand raise. I have Sandy Durrell. So I'm going to unmute you.
So. Oh, okay. Thank you. This is all resonating with me because tomorrow I'm doing this songwriter showcase, and I've learned a lot, but enough for our Zoom meeting in the respect that, you have done something on a very high techno level, Ted, that is more than just, how do we sync? So the only thing I know that we're doing is my songwriters who have singers, like Billy Stritch is going to be singing to a track of one of the songwriter's songs. So he has the track with him. And when we cut to him, he'll do his thing, as will Danny Backer and a couple of other singers. And then also one of my songwriters seems to be very proficient in being able to discuss the different elements that are part of the audio setup on Zoom. And we went through a lot of setting changes that would now enable better sound for the musicians who will be singing and playing. Of course, that's one person in one place, but then also for the singers so that they get a better quality. So I have it all written down, and in case anybody needs that, although I think, Ted, you probably know all of that, all those little bells and whistles. But I just wanted to, say that this is going to be, like a debut for American Popular Song Society, and for me being able to orchestrate.
I'm muting you, Sandy. I'm muting you. I'm going on to another question. Martin Pikuch. I will unmute you.
Yes, thank you. The name is pronounced PQ, by the way, like the letters in the alphabet. PQ.
So what's the CH doing at the end of it?
Well, it's a Polish name, and it's Pietrzuch in Polish, so we dumbed it right down to PQ. And my question, the reason for my tuning in, my wife Elizabeth Falk told me about this and what you're doing, and I am a proud member of TRU also. And my question is, and maybe I've just answered it, or maybe it's been answered already. I was hoping to have a virtual rehearsal of the jazz quartet that I have. As a matter of fact, it took me 2 weeks to get the music ready, and I mailed it out to the guys today, hoping that we could count 1, 2, ready, go, or whatever, and do it. But is it true that we can't do that because there are delays?
Well, the thing that is very difficult, and the reason why we have a click track, we did a click track at the beginning of the overture, that was the first step, was because, again, with this delay, even if it's not delayed, there is nuance where you're playing, and unless you have everyone, turned up really loud in your ear, it's just hard to hear other players playing. And so it's, you lose, I think you would lose a lot of time in that. If you have a click that is keeping you honest with the tempo, maybe that's easier to do. I think it's very difficult to do a live performance, especially with instrumentalists, because it's just getting everybody to be on this, on the same beat at the same time. It is very difficult.
I notice in order for me to play with my computer, I have to be playing through enhanced speakers, not through the computer speakers. But if we're all playing from enhanced speakers so we can hear ourselves from that loud volume, would that make the difference?
That probably would be better. You'd probably want to turn yourself down, I would think, just because so you can hear the others. And, when we're playing in a room together, we're obviously listening to each other, and we can listen so much tighter when we don't have a computer in the way. So the problem with doing it over Zoom, I think, is that you are playing and you hear yourself more than you would hear the others. So maybe if you turned up, the other players more, that would be helpful. I haven't experimented with that. I think it's, again, very difficult to do. That's why we didn't do it live, the overture live. Mm-hmm. It would have been too difficult.
They would be coming through those same enhanced speakers because I only have one set of speakers. Mm-hmm. So I would be doing is it possible to do a kind of mix, or I have to ask them to turn themselves up or down?
Martin, I just want to jump in and say, because it's we need to go on to the next person, but Ted's not saying not to try it and not to do it. He's just saying that there are basic problems that are inherent. You may actually be blessed. You may sit with your 3 virtual friends and listen to each other and actually do a decent job. I don't think you'll do a perfect job, but you might.
Yeah, I think Bob, if you want to hear what your composition sounds like, I would suggest doing it the way we did it for the overture. And I have people that can make click tracks that can help you do that. And this way you'll be able to, everybody can play their part to this track, to this click track, and then you can combine them. And it's, for someone that has done that before, it's pretty painless. And that way you can get a clean recording of your piece. I think it's going to be very difficult to do that. And for you to feel like you accomplished something, because it's so hard to line that up in the moment.
So do you do a pre-recording of the click track and then let it run you?
Yes.
Like you're doing a regular recording?
Yes.
So I just want to take a moment before I get to the next two questions. I just want to say we have a friend of mine who's a sound engineer in the room. So Charlie, do you want to just say hello to everybody?
Hello?
Yeah.
Am I?
There you are.
Oh, there I am. Hey, how are you?
So you're a sound engineer, right?
Yes, I do what I can.
You were saying in the chat that you would offer your services to people if.
Yeah, I'm based in LA at the moment. Been a little out of work, with everything kind of being shut down. And I just have been working in like recording studios here, but I went out to Indiana, do a lot of recording, and a lot of the stuff that Ted's mentioning is just sounds very familiar to stuff that I used to work at in Indiana, just mixing orchestras, putting them all in time, whether it's live or individual pieces, linking them to video for like an opera or a musical to be played later online, as well as archive it. So
Charlie,
I was looking for some service.
information in the chat. Charlie, did you put your contact information in the chat?
I will right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to the questions now. Dave Kurkowski.
Love the overture. I listened to it several times. Great job. I wanted to ask you about the technique where you would send a track out to a singer and they record it and you get it back. Did you experience any microphone problems when you had singers record? Did they have special mics, or were they just going off their computer mics?
They were, as far as the singers go, they are just doing it off of their iPhones, honestly. We didn't have any audio problems that I am aware of, but again, it was, we got the video of Laura Benanti singing her piece in the bathroom, and it was just a cell phone, and so it's honestly, given the fact that everyone's home and isolated and, everyone's trying to pull this together, that's kind of the highest quality we can do. And I think it worked out.
Yeah.
You obviously want a quiet place to do it, so that your voice is isolated. But I think it can be as simple as recording yourself on your iPhone, voice memo, like the piano part or whatever, sending it to the singer saying, here, put this in your headphones, sing to it while recording yourself, and then send that back. And then the only tricky part, I guess, is putting the piano part back onto that vocal video that you get.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oops. Are you talking to me? So I can't hear you all of a sudden. All of a sudden, I lost.
You're muted.
Now I hear you.
That's me. I put myself on mute because there was some background things going.
Am I on here?
Okay, now I was saying yes. I was calling on you, Jeffrey.
Okay, great. Two questions. First of all, when the Ladies Who Lunch, did they all record those as individual videos that the editor then had to line up on top of the music and get them all singing in sync at the appropriate times? Well, I can't hear Ted.
It's muted now. There you are. Nope.
There we go.
Okay.
They yes, the answer is yes. They were given, sing, Audra, you sing this lyric, and then this lyric, and this lyric. And then, they did I guess she did a full pass of the song and then just sang at those specific parts. And then it's the same thing with the overture. They've got to be able to line up all these videos so that it's continuous.
And the other question is, I hear we don't have a solution for singing multi-parts live because of the potential for lag time, but it seems to me there must be some way, if you're going to do a solo live and you don't want to have an editor lay that down on top of a track later, for a way to feed the track into the singer's device, so it's both heard by the singer and sent out at the same time over Zoom. I don't know if
Yes.
Zoom has a capability of audio mixing like that, or if we'd have to look for a program that would work on our either PC or Mac, whatever we're using.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of alluding to earlier, where you could potentially get around this lag time situation in doing a reading. You could probably, honestly, even if you had an old school CD player and you had a CD, and it was like, you got to the part of the script where the song comes, the performer presses play on the CD player, it plays, live in their room, the computer is picking up that sound, and then they're singing to it. Then what we would receive on the other end would be, hopefully a nice mix of the piano and the singer.
I understood that's one possible solution, but you're not aware of a mixed down solution within the computer.
I'm not. I don't know if there's a way. There may be an extension for Zoom, but I haven't seen anything
Okay, thanks. Ted.
about that. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go. I understand Mark Montague wants to speak as well, although he doesn't have his hand raised, but I want to take Mary Davis first.
Thank you. Hi, I know you're going to be speaking about other platforms from another speaker, but Ted, I was just wondering, besides Zoom, is there any other platform you're aware of that works better with a musical than Zoom? And from what the gentleman just said, or what you just answered, the fact is if you have a CD player and you press music, that means that the actors, if it's musical, they can start singing together and the recipients will hear, it's like anybody singing to a song. Is that what would come out?
Yeah, I haven't tried that, but I would, I think that may be a good experiment to try where, you have someone play music live in the room and then they sing to it. And then you determine on the other end if it's, good enough.
Right.
When it comes to other programs, I mean, obviously there's FaceTime and there's an app called House Party that people are using that's the same, video sharing. But again, I think it comes down to this lag in time where no matter what program you're using on the internet to connect, if someone's playing the piano in another room and you're singing in another room, I think it would be very difficult to line that up.
Because that's very disconcerting to watch when it's off. Very.
Yeah, and the reason in the earlier that reading I was saying where the writer wanted to try to do a reading for producers, and I kind of hesitated, was because, when you are showing a piece to a producer, you want it to be as polished and as good as it can be.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think, and I told her, I said, I don't think that this is going to give the show, we're putting our best foot forward because of this lag time, because of this. The best way to do this would be to not do it live. Honestly, do it the way that we did the Sondheim, where it was all pre-recorded. I mean, if you tuned in and watched the Sondheim concert when it was supposed to air, which was Monday night, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
I mean, there were some really bad technical difficulties that happened, and the show was supposed to be live. Hosted by Raul, interspersed through each song. He's supposed to come on and say things and tee up the next number. And as you saw, if you watched, there were so many technical errors that it was just kind of cringeworthy to watch. And so they decided, they went down for an hour and then came back and they just did it straight. So I think, there's a lot of technical elements that could go wrong.
So I see a lot of comments in chat. The people that have made the comments in chat, if you'd like to make them to the room, raise your hand so I can call on you. But first I'm going to call on Edward Fee because he's had his hand raised.
Oh, thanks, Bob. Thanks, Ted. Thanks, Ted, for coming on here. My question is one time I actually recorded in RCA recording studios and I was laying down keyboard tracks, but is a dummy track the same as a click track? Because I remember they had a dummy track and then the drummer put down his chops and they built the layers from there. So is it similar, click and dummy?
Yeah. Very similar. So the click track, literally all you hear is a click. And you can, I mean, if you just listen to it, you wouldn't even know what you're listening to, because it's just literally, you know, click, 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 click. And when,
Right.
you know, for the whole thing. And then I played basically the piano vocal on top of that. So I guess the two of those things combined could be considered a dummy track, because once all the players had their parts and played their parts, we took that dummy track out and it was gone.
Gotcha.
How do you
Thank you, Ted.
how do you do a click track if you're doing tempo changes throughout?
That's a great question, and I had to play around with Logic to figure that out. So if you're familiar with GarageBand, it's kind of, Logic is kind of like GarageBand on steroids, I'd say, because it's much more, you can do much more with it, and you can, you know, it's the same kind of timeline setup where you're putting things on a timeline and things are going in sequential order. There is a way in Logic where you can set the tempo of how fast that the timeline is moving, and you can adjust it to literally by a line, and you can you can make it a slope up or a slope down, or immediately tempo change. You'd want someone that was probably familiar with Logic to do that. Honestly, if the piece stays at one tempo, you could probably just, you know, set a metronome and use that as a click track.
I want to see if Mark Montague is still with us. I know you wanted to speak before you left.
Sure, yeah. Good time. Got to go in a minute. So quick little thing for solutions for live singing. The best way is to have the singer have the track playing in a single earpiece, so they can actually hear what they're singing to live, but have it not bleeding into the microphone that they're using, whether it's the microphone on the computer or a standalone microphone itself. A lot of the problem with Zoom is that you have bleed from the speakers, from everybody else talking, coming into the microphone at the same time, so that causes some of the lag as well. There is currently nothing out there from any of the things that deals with simultaneous multiple sources. I'm working on that right now with my tech to be able to get that solved. But the best way for right now to capture everything in sync is to have your play go through the person's ear, they're singing to it, and then the editor being able to pull that track that they're working from, as well as their clear singing as well. But yeah, there's no easy solution at the moment.
Okay, Madeline Stone.
Hi, thank you, Ted. Thank you, everyone. I've noticed when I've tried to play live, like if I'm playing the piano and I'm writing with someone and they're playing piano, this is so distorted on FaceTime. It seems there's always a lot of distortion playing live.
Yeah, I think that is definitely an issue. You know, I think sometimes it comes down to not having the recording device so close to the instrument, maybe. I think the thing to play around with is if you are going to make a track, you know, when you make a track, it can be much more, you can just control it a lot better, the volume, right? But I think it comes down to not overpowering the microphone wherever you're getting close to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Courtney Fallon, you were going to say something before? No. Never mind. Any other questions or any other comments?
Eric Sorota?
Oh, it's a hand, but where did it go? Tamara Pica.
The pastor, so am I muted?
Oh, there you go.
There we go. My brother's a pastor, so he's been working with a lot of different software to like make church services run. So one of the things I was thinking about is if you did pre-package the songs, you could do things live and have control over switching screens. So you could have almost like a stage manager who ran a switcher program. And so you could switch from whoever's speaking, and then when a song came on, switch it to that prepackaged song and then switch back out again to a different screen. So that may be a way to kind of play with the technology and a live performance.
Exactly. I think it's all about all about controlling the live nature of this, because I think when it's live, there's so many elements that can just go wrong. And if you can pre-package everything, you can control what everyone is seeing and hearing much better.
Well, and there's pieces of it that you can do live too. Like you could do parts of it live in the way that we used to do live TV, or, you know, the way that soaps used to happen. So you would just set up various screens, and so you could, but I would think the music is the hardest to package live. That's the hardest piece. So if you know, had your actors wearing the same thing, recorded them singing in the same area, you could have a prepackaged song that's already mixed and have the live thing switch to, you know, and do a switch that might solve some of the problem of the music part of it. But yeah, it's not a completely live experience.
Okay. Was there anybody else who wanted? I know Julie, you were making some comments. Did you want to make them to the room? And also David Kukowski, I know you put something into chat about something that you want to invite people to tomorrow. Can you want to explain what you're doing? And I'll unmute you. And Julie, you'll let me know if you want to speak.
Sure. I have found, I'm a singer and I've been taking an online acting class on Zoom. I'm not sure how this would be performatively, but I know you can play a track on another program and it can still be heard on Zoom. Like, I could start right now playing a track on iTunes and see, you all can hear it. Yeah. Did you hear my music play?
No, maybe because your headphones are in.
That's probably why. Yeah. I found it can work to play the two at once. Like, yeah, here, let me turn the track on. Yeah. Because I found, like, in my acting class, we have to work. Obviously, they have us all muted on Zoom so we can all work at the same time. But we've gone into like breakout sessions where we're playing music on our track. Usually I record myself on my phone, just record it to watch back with class. But I don't know how viable a solution that would be for a finished product. But, you know, the singer and actor could play the track, perform, and then still be seen on Zoom. So it's just another thing to explore, that like you can play the pre-recorded track on another program.
Okay. Let me see if there are any other hands. Yes, more hands raised. L'Oreal Askew.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me now?
After that. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure I can hear. No, I'm kidding. Can any of this be used to help do dialogue on Zoom? In other words, yeah, you can do a song maybe the way you're describing. But what about, how do you, in between the songs, how do you get people to not have this big lag between their comments?
I think the script between the song is just, we're back to our usual virtual presentations. No, we're admitting that there is some lag time when you're doing a virtual play, or doing the virtual script non-musical, but we're not saying that wasn't hard to fix, to deal with. You just have to make sure that your cue pickup is very quick. So, because you have to be aware of the fact that there may be lag time between one actor saying something and the other actor across town saying something else. But you can definitely do your dialogue between your songs.
I've seen something where there's a split screen. Does that help? I don't know how to do that, but.
On Zoom, I don't know how you do a split screen. You can do things, and I'll tell you what I would advise everybody. This is a little trick that I learned from Dennis Corsi. You may already know it, but when you're doing your play reading, you basically have everybody turn off, that you mute them and they have to turn off their video. And also there's a little thing that says hide non-participants. I think, where is it? You're supposed to hide non-video participants. So basically the only people that will come up on the screen are the actors, and they will all, as long as they have their video on, they will be appearing on the video screen, like either one after another horizontally or stacked on top of each other. So all of your actors can be on screen at the same time. But I don't think it's a split screen. I don't think Zoom is sophisticated enough to do a split screen. You can do breakout rooms and things like that. Fran is raising his real hand.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, Bob. And it's on the bottom bar with the up arrow. You select video settings just for what you had said. You just turn off the others. So I've used it where I've had it in an interview, say of 2 other people, just the 3 of us on screen, even though 15 people were watching it. So that's one way that you could do it. As far as syncing the sound, wanted to ask, isn't it possible to just play the sound on share screen? Because I was playing sound from video on share screen, and the people who were participating in that show were then all hearing that sound at the same time. It seemed like they were, because they were singing along with it.
Yeah, I think share screen is kind of the same thing that Julie was saying, where you know, whether they can see your screen or not, if you have the audio turned up, you know, not in your headphones, they should be able to. Everyone on the call should be able to hear, I would think. I don't think it necessarily needs to be to share your screen for that to happen.
Well, I was thinking you can have, say, a piano player playing the tune and then sharing the screen. Everyone is seeing that one pianist playing and then singing, so there's that visual cue of everyone seeing it at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's a possibility. I'd never thought
So
about
that's
that.
that's what I think. I think I did that the other day on one of the shows that we did by using share screen and using a video.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Larry,
That's a possibility.
your hand must be exhausted by now. Larry Daggett.
Hi. Hey, Ted, thanks so much for coming today. I just want to make sure I understand this. The best that we can hope for right now, unless what the last person was just talking about, the best we can hope for in a Zoom musical reading is that we send the singer a pre-recorded track and they play it on their computer and they sing to that live. But that is not what happened with the Sondheim. See if I understand this correctly. The singers listened to it in their earbuds. So actually what you got back from the singers was an a cappella track, because you didn't hear the track, you just heard the singers, and then you laid the track on top of that, and that's why it sounded so pristine. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. And because they were singing to the track that literally you're going to replace,
right,
the timing worked out perfectly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally it'd be to do a Zoom reading. Ideally, you would not do it live. If you had to do it live, then doing it the way we've been talking about, having the person who's singing, playing, hearing the music in their space live is
right,
probably the best way to do it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
So anybody else have any closing thoughts? Any closing questions? Ted? I'm going to...
Yeah.
Laura
I
has her
think...
hand up.
Oh.
Sandy?
Lori has her hand up. Lori, I'll ask you.
Has her hand up. Okay, Lori, I'll unmute you.
Thank you. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so if the singers are doing an a cappella based on what they hear in the ear, why not have an actor do his or her part with pauses and then record that and give it to the other actor to put in their ear so they can respond and then edit it together?
You lost me at a cappella. So why are they doing an a cappella?
No, what Larry just described are the steps of how it's done with a song, okay? And in those steps, the singers are given a track that they listen to, and then they put that track in one earphone and they sing into their microphone their part.
Okay, you just lost me on a cappella. You meant singing to a track. Because if they're singing...
Well, singing a cappella in the sense that on the recording of their singing, we're not hearing the other music, we're just hearing their singing, and only they can hear the track is. So what I'm saying is, can that be done? Basically, you're filming a reading, doing so, but can one actor or whatever, do their part with pauses when someone else is supposed to speak, and then the other actor watch it and give their reading, and then the editor put the two together so there aren't these pauses, and then we don't have these big lags.
You're talking about dialogue?
Yeah.
Editor is a secret word there. We're back to not virtual presentation. We're talking now about recorded presentation that's presented virtually. We're not talking about live. So
yeah, it changes it to a film.
Anything can be done in post-production.
Lori, I think that process works for music, but it doesn't work for dialogue, because in music, the music tempo keeps everything moving and everyone knows, you can know that things are moving. With dialogue, an actor could take more time, could take a beat, and I think to leave space in between that for another actor to speak will give you a lot of trouble. I think the best way for that is, as Bob was saying, you just have to anticipate. Something interesting that I read is that the news reporters, the news anchors, when they're interviewing people on Zoom, there's this 3 or 4 second lag, and they've gotten to the point where they can anticipate that. So they speak before the person has actually finished talking. But what we see is they've accounted for that lag, so it looks normal. And I think that's something that needs to happen here, where you're really quick on the cue, and that's I think the best that we can do at this point.
Courtney?
Yeah, also Lori, it's less of an issue with dialogue as long as they're not speaking simultaneously, because the problem with Zoom is that it can't understand who it's listening to. So it's difficult to determine which audio will be picked up when things are happening simultaneously. So the lag is less of an issue, but as long as actors aren't speaking at the same time, you have more freedom to have a successful reading and have the audio work.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking, I don't see more hands. So,
Sam Berland has his hand up.
Not virtually. Okay, I was looking for the virtual.
Yes, right, Sam? He does.
Okay, Sam, did I just unmute you? No, I didn't. I'm trying to unmute you.
Yeah, hi. I've worked on live shows, traveling with a live band, and I feed animation with a drum loop built into the video or a basic track that they play on top of, so that they always get in sync, because they know they know the music and they've played it enough. So if you have rehearsals of everything you're doing before you actually go live on Zoom, you probably would have better control of what's going on.
Yeah,
Plus, I've also edited stuff together, multi-camera, with pre-recorded tracks, and put everybody together and make a complete play. So I've done that many times.
Yeah, I think the only way to do that on Zoom is if you are able to get that click track or whatever to keep it together to every player simultaneously. I'm not quite sure how you would do that, but I know what you're saying.
So, Ted, I think we've come to the end of the questions, and probably exhausted you by now.
No, not at all.
For the record, Ted was my music director in 2014 of a musical of mine, and he was just a pleasure to work with. And I will always be grateful to you for the work you did with me on my show.
Likewise.
Great experience working with this man. Anybody who's doing a musical, first guy you should call is Ted Arthur, unless Levitsky's still in the room, which he's somebody you might want to call as well. What other music directors are here while we're at it? Raise your hand if you're a music director and I didn't acknowledge you. And Howard's here.
Martin.
I was expecting more music directors. Well, Martin Piku, without a CH at the end. Martin Piku is a conductor. So he's somebody that people might want to work with as well. So if you didn't sign into the chat with your name and your email, and probably what you do, if you're a resource that somebody might want to call on for engineering or for music directing or for anything related to virtual presentation, make sure you do it before we close up the room. And thank you, Ted.
Yeah, can I just say something really quick, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, first off, thanks so much for having me here today. And, you know, I think we're in a situation now where, no one expected this to happen. And we're in a new world of creating musical theater at the moment. Nothing, what we do now will compare with how we used to do it. And I think what we all want is to put our best foot forward for producers, for whoever we're doing this reading for. And, you know, the methods that we're coming up with, you know, seem to be the best that we can do at this point. And so, you know, if you feel like making a click track or, you know, working in Logic is something that may be overwhelming, there are definitely people that can help and that are available. And I can give or Bob has my information, and you know, I could connect you with someone that would be more than happy to work with you. I think we just want to make sure that, I think we all want to make sure that we produce the best thing we can given the situation that we're in.
And we also, one of the other responsibilities that we have as theater artists is engaging our audiences. We have audiences that aren't able to go to live theater. We want to give them some sort of option. Hopefully many of them are sophisticated enough to understand the limitations of what we're dealing with and to appreciate whatever it is that we present for them to enjoy and to be part of the theater community. So thank you all for being part of the TRU community, doing what we can to stay useful and visible during this terrible period. May 15th is the date set for the start of us coming out of our quarantine, coming out of our stay at home. I'm not sure what the specifics are of it, but May 15th is the goal date for the city of New York. I think it's for the state of New York, actually. It's the whole state. So continue being safe. Just because a politician tells us that we can go out and not wear masks doesn't mean we should go out and not wear masks. We want to keep our community healthy and thriving. This will be over someday. It will be. We just have to be patient and deal with what we're dealing with in the most graceful and elegant way we can.